All right, let's get started. It's 5:40. Hello, everyone. My name is Agata Bednarska. I am the Outreach and Education Manager for the World Trade Center Health Program at Mount Sinai here. We want to welcome you to our first virtual September 11 Victims Compensation Educational Webinar. We want to thank you for joining us. Before we get started and before I'll turn it over to Dr. Michael Crane, our medical director, I just want to provide you with a few technical updates about this workshop. This workshop is being recorded. This is the first virtual event. This is the first time that we're hosting such a large event. So we kindly ask you, if you do run into any technical difficulties, please bear with us. We do have two staff members, our outreach and education coordinators with us, who are here to support us, and that's Patricia Grachik and Maria Lugo, and they will be here managing our chat box and the Q&A box. Once again, if you are just joining right now, we do have interpretation services available to our Spanish-speaking responders and our Polish-speaking responders. If you are calling in from the Zoom app through your computer, please make sure to select the little globe on the right-hand corner all the way in the bottom, and then select the language. If you are calling in from your phone through the Zoom app, you will click on more, the three little dots in your phone in the right-hand corner, and select the language. Your lines, if you are calling into this webinar from your phone, your lines are muted. We will be able to have a QA section towards the end of this webinar. So if you're calling from the Zoom app, you will be able to go into the chat and put your question in. We do ask that you hold off with your questions till the end of the webinar. The VCF team won't be able to address your individual case questions, but they will be able to provide general guidance on and updates on the registration, claims, and important deadlines. And we will share with you in a chat box and then during the webinar, their helpline and their contact information as well. So without further ado, I would like to turn it over to our medical director, Dr. Michael Crane, to get us started. Dr. Crane?
Well, thank you all and welcome. This is our annual Victims Compensation Fund workshop. Each year, we partner with the VCF to offer an educational event to help our responders learn about how the fund can help you and your family. Just some of the topics we'll be talking about tonight. We'll give you an overview of the fund and what it offers to our first responders. We'll talk with you about eligibility for compensation, and then some mechanics about how to actually file a claim. While I have you, I want to remind you that we're delighted that you are with us at Mount Sinai, and I urge you to come to your monitor exam on an annual basis. It's where you receive the expert care that is provided by the World Trade Center program, and you really help other people, other responders, other survivors also, actually. Your ongoing participation allows providers to better understand the full effects of 9/11 related exposure, and that really means, that understanding means that we will be able to provide better treatment in the future. It also offers you access to the World Trade Center benefits, such as the Victims Compensation Fund and other programs that are available outside World Trade Center. Let's just take a moment. It's been a terrible year, the year of the pandemic. We've had many losses, friends, coworkers, fellow responders. So would you kindly join me in a moment of silence to honor those we have lost and all of the courageous essential workers who have contributed significantly throughout the pandemic. A moment of silence, please. Thank you. So now let me introduce our VCF members. Stephanie Langston, the Deputy Special Master, and Anthony Gardner, the Director of Communications and External Affairs, who will provide you with an overview of the VCF. And there they are now.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, let me just go ahead and share. All right, so thank you, Dr. Crane, for the opportunity to join you and the members of the Mount Sinai CCE this evening. Anthony and I appreciate the opportunity to participate, and we thank you and our colleagues at Mount Sinai for putting together this important forum. We've all been challenged, as you just mentioned, by COVID-19, and our thoughts remain with those of you in the 9/11 community who have gone through a particularly hard struggle. We also want to thank all of the doctors and staff at the World Trade Center Health Program clinics for their dedication to continuing to provide treatment and monitoring during COVID, always putting their patients first. Before we jump into our agenda, I want to let you know that despite COVID-19, the VCF has managed to maintain full operations, and we continue to review claims, and we continue to issue eligibility decisions and awards. Our staff was able to quickly put in place and adapt to almost fully remote work, and we really only have 2 changes to our operations as a result of COVID. First, it's taking us a little bit longer to process incoming mail. So where possible, if you have documents in support of your claim, please upload them to the online system rather than mailing them in. And second, we are no longer printing and mailing hard copy letters. So all of our letters are uploaded to your claim in the online system. So, if you don't have access to your online claim, you should call our helpline and get access so you can see when a letter has been uploaded. And you can get online access to your claim even if you're working with an attorney, and I'll provide the helpline phone number at the end. So for those of you who are not seeing the slides, if you get a pen or a pencil and some paper by the end of the presentation, I'll make sure that you have that number. So let's start with a quick poll, and let's see if we can get those poll questions up. Okay, so the question is, have you filed a claim with the Victim Compensation Fund? Yes, no, not sure. Oh, we've got answers coming in. Looks like we're almost. All right, so it looks like about 1/3 of you have filed a claim, and just about half have not. And then there's a small percentage that aren't sure. So if you are not sure whether or not you filed a claim, please call our helpline. You can call them tomorrow morning, and they'll be able to tell you whether or not you have a claim with us. So let's jump into it. If we can do that. And let me run through what Anthony and I will cover tonight. So I'll start with a brief overview of the VCF, and then I'll discuss what's required in order to be eligible. I'll then explain at a very high level how we calculate awards, and then Anthony will step in and explain what we call our 3 basic steps. And he'll also talk with you about registration and claim filing deadlines and processing a VCF claim. I'll then wrap up with our top 5 takeaways, and I'll point you to some helpful resources. So with that, let's jump right into what is the VCF. So the VCF provides compensation to individuals or to the personal representative of a deceased individual who were present at the World Trade Center or in the surrounding New York City exposure zone, which I'll explain in a few minutes, or at the Pentagon crash site or the Shanksville, Pennsylvania crash site at some point between September 11th, 2001 and May 30th, 2002, when the official cleanup effort ended in New York, and who have since been diagnosed with a 9/11 related physical illness. Now, when the VCF first reopened in 2011, we were supposed to be open for a limited amount of time, and we had limited funding. And that changed in July of 2019 when the Never Forget the Heroes, James Zadroga, Ray Pfeiffer, Luis Alvarez permanent authorization of the September 11th Victim Compensation Fund Act was signed into law. We refer to this as the VCF Permanent Authorization Act. We are now open to take claims until October 1st, 2090, and we have as much funding as needed to pay all eligible claims filed by that date. And I want to say thank you to those of you who may be with us tonight who helped with the efforts that ended up in our permanent authorization. We know a large number of responders participated in those efforts to get Congress to make us permanent. The VCF is not just for first responders, though. Other potential claimants include workers or volunteers in construction, cleanup, debris removal, and people who lived, worked, or went to school in the affected areas. And just to give you an idea of where we stand today with claim filings and awards, as of the end of February, we have received over 60,000 claims, and we have found over 37,000 claimants eligible for compensation. We've sent award letters to over 35,000 of those individuals, and we have awarded over $8 billion. We publish monthly statistics on our website, including a lot of other details, and we encourage you to review our annual report, which was just posted last month. So, who is eligible for the VCF? To be eligible for compensation from the VCF, you have to meet 3 requirements that apply to everyone. Now, there are some additional requirements that might apply depending on your individual circumstances, but today I'm going to focus on the 3 that everyone has to meet. First, you have to be certified for treatment by the World Trade Center Health Program for a 9/11 related physical condition. We follow the health program. If a condition is on their list and they certify you for the condition, we will accept it as eligible for compensation. We work closely with the health program and exchange information about your conditions, so you don't need to submit proof of certification or medical records for purposes of showing us that you have been certified. So number 1, certified for a physical health condition. The second criteria that applies to everyone is you need to show us that you were present at one of the crash sites or in what we call the New York City exposure zone at any time beginning on September 11th, 2001 through May 30th, 2002. We call this presence at the site, and I'm going to talk about it in a good bit of detail in just a minute. The third criteria that everyone must meet is you need to register with the VCF either by July 29th of this year or by your applicable registration deadline. And Anthony's going to explain this in a later part of the presentation. But I want to note that there is a lot of incorrect information out there about the July 29th deadline. And so one of the things we want to be sure of tonight is that we clarify that for you. And again, Anthony will cover that in just a few minutes. So let's talk first about how to prove your presence, because we know this is a topic that raises a lot of questions. So first, I mentioned the New York City exposure zone. In order to be eligible for compensation, we need some kind of proof that you were in this area or along the routes of debris removal at any point from September 11th to May 30th. Our New York City exposure zone is the green area on this map, and this is the zone we use to establish presence. So it runs south of Canal Street, river to river, from the Hudson River to the intersection of Canal Street and East Broadway, and then north on East Broadway to Clinton Street, and then east on Clinton Street to the East River. Our area also includes the routes of debris removal. So the barges, the Fresh Kills landfill in Staten Island, those are all included in what we call the New York City exposure zone. Now, this is a little different than the New York City disaster area that the health program uses when they are evaluating your exposure. And unlike the health program, we do not have a minimum time requirement for presence. You just need to show us that you were in this area at some point during the relevant dates. So the real question here is, how do you show or prove where you were nearly 20 years ago? How do you prove to us that you were present? We know this can be challenging, but proving you were there is a key requirement to be eligible for compensation. Now, we have an extensive list on our website of information about different documents that you can use that might be able to show that you were there. And one of the ways that we have really tried to ease the burden on you is by establishing agreements with employers and unions and other organizations who might be able to provide presence information on your behalf. And so where we can, we have worked with entities like FDNY or the New York City Department of Sanitation or Con Ed, just as examples. And one of the things that we have been doing recently, and one of the reasons Anthony has come on board our team, is to try and increase the number of those relationships that we have, so we can try to ease the burden on you to help find these documents. So a complete list of the entities who we have relationships with, the types of documents, et cetera, is on our website. It's under a section called Policies and Procedures, and we are constantly updating it as we have new information to share. So we will accept a broad range of documents that are dated from that time. It might be memo books or command logs. It could be injury reports. It could be employer letters, or we have a third-party verification form that an organization can use to attest to your being there. It might be medical records, or in the case of somebody who lived in the area, it might be lease or mortgage documents or tax returns. There is a wide range of documents that we will consider. And the important thing to remember is that we consider the totality of the circumstances in each claim. And what that basically means is there's no, formula of documents you must submit. There are things that we can do, documents that you'll see that you may have. But if you don't have those documents, you should still submit what you do have, and we'll evaluate it based on your situation and your claim. So when you're thinking about which documents to submit, consider what it is we need. At the end of the day, what we need is documentation that shows where you were at the time, so the specific address or location, when you were there, meaning the specific dates or time frame, and why you were there, meaning what it was that you were doing. Now, when it comes to location, we know some of you were there and you were assigned to a particular building, a particular address. But others of you may have worked all around the area, moving around continuously to do work at various locations. And if you can't provide a specific street address, that's okay. You can use cross streets, you can indicate which block you were in, or note a nearby landmark. Tell us what it is that you remember about where you were located and provide as much detail as possible. Now, as I mentioned, we will accept a wide range of documents. And again, I encourage you to look at the website, but also to think about what you may have, where you were at the time, who you were with, and whether you have a document that you think might help prove your presence. So one of the questions that we often get is about affidavits. These are basically legal statements from somebody who can attest to you being there at the time. If your best way of proving presence is by having a coworker or an acquaintance or somebody who knew you were there submit a statement on your behalf, we encourage you to use our witness presence statement form instead of having them write an affidavit. And the reason for this is it will help to make sure that we get the details we need. Now, this is a relatively new form. We created it because we were seeing a lot of affidavits that didn't have the level of detail that we require. So if someone completes this form on your behalf and they follow the instructions, we should have the level of detail needed to help evaluate your presence. And again, our website has a lot of information about how to prove presence and is a great resource. And we are actually getting ready shortly to have an entire new page on the website that is dedicated to proving presence. So we're looking forward to launching that. Now, just a few more comments about presence. We know it can be difficult to find proof that you were there. The passage of time, people changing jobs, moving away, losing touch with former colleagues. Maybe you worked for a company or a business that no longer exists, or maybe you were there as a volunteer and you don't know anyone who can vouch for you. If you are unable to get documentation to support presence, and if your claim is denied as a result, your letter will include an appeal form and instructions for how to appeal. Please appeal if that should happen to you. A denial does not mean we don't believe you were there. It simply means we don't have documents that can help confirm that you were there. So if you have tried every way possible to get documents that prove your presence, or you've really tried to find people who can submit a witness presence statement on your behalf, and you simply can't find those, the denial is a door opening, not closing. It's an opportunity to come talk with us about your presence. It's another way to provide information in support of your claim. And if you appeal, we'll schedule a hearing. The process is non-adversarial. You come in, although these days we do it by phone and Zoom, and you tell us your story and your circumstances for where you were and why you were there. And oftentimes, having that as part of your claim is all we need to be able to confirm your presence. So if you are denied, please remember, go ahead and appeal so you can come in and add that testimony as part of your claim. So my last comment on the presence topic is a question that we've been hearing a lot recently. And that's the question of when. When should you submit your presence documentation? Now, technically, you don't need to submit your presence documents until you file your claim. But once you've registered with us and you have an online account in our system, you have the option to upload presence documentation to your claim to store it for future use. If you do this, we won't review it until you file your claim. And you don't need to do this if we have an agreement in place with your employer or your union or other organization. But if you are concerned about being able to find documents, our suggestion is go find them now, even if you're not sure if you're going to file a claim in the future. You can store them, and when or if you file the claim, they will be there. Another question that we will sometimes get is, what if I'm not sick yet? So we hope you never get sick. But if you answer yes to the question, were you there? Then our suggestion to you is go ahead and get the presence documentation and get it out of the way. And then you'll know that you have it. And whether you upload it to our system or whether you keep it in your files, you'll have that step out of the way in case you should need it in the future. And as a quick tip, the documents that you submit to prove presence with us will generally be accepted by the health program to prove your exposure. So again, if you get them in place now, you go and you get certified, and then you come back to us to file your claim, you will likely be able to use the same documents. And so keep copies of them. Make sure that you have them in case you need them. So I've talked about eligibility. And before talking about how we calculate awards, I want to highlight some key differences between the health program and the VCF. It's important to understand we are two separate programs. Enrollment in one does not automatically register you in the other, or vice versa. And it's entirely possible that you may be certified for treatment by the health program, but not eligible for compensation by the VCF for a few reasons. And it's because the criteria for our two programs overlaps to some extent, but not entirely. So first, the VCF only compensates for physical conditions. By law, we are not allowed to compensate for psychological conditions, but the health program certifies and treats both physical and psychological conditions. The second difference, as I mentioned a couple of minutes ago, is that our geographic zones are different. So you saw our zone, the green part of Lower Manhattan, south of Canal Street, and it includes the routes of debris removal and the barges and the Fresh Kills landfill. For the health program, for evaluating your exposure, they use the New York City disaster area, and that is south of Houston Street, so a few blocks north of us, and they go into parts of Brooklyn. The third difference is our timeframes. So for presidents, we need to know you were there sometime between September 11th, 2001 and May 30th, 2002. But the health program for evaluating your exposure goes through July 31st, 2002. And then last is the length of time you had to be there. For us, we have no minimum time frame. For presence, we just need to know at some point you were there. But for the health program, they have minimum time requirements for exposure because they're looking to make the connection between your exposure and your condition. And then finally, one important note, the VCF does not distinguish in any way between responders and survivors. There's no difference in the application process, there's no difference in the eligibility requirements, and there is no difference in how we calculate the award. So with that, let me explain the awards. We compensate for two types of loss. The first is called non-economic loss. This is commonly referred to as pain and suffering. So this is the part of our awards that vary based on the severity of your condition and the impact of the condition on your daily activities. So the amount of your non-economic loss is not based on the number of certified conditions you may have. It's based on the severity and impact overall. These awards range from $10,000 to $340,000. And there are certain limits to this part of the award, the non-economic loss part, that are set by the law that governs the VCF. Every person who meets our eligibility criteria is eligible for a non-economic loss award. You don't have to prove or claim anything else. You simply need to give us what we need to evaluate your eligibility and determine that you are eligible for compensation, and you have met the criteria for a non-economic loss award. The second type of loss that we compensate is economic loss. So this is the value of the wages or the other employment benefits that you lost as a result of your eligible condition. And in order to receive an economic loss award, you must have a disability determination, either due at least in part to your eligible condition. So it could be an SSA disability, a workers' comp disability, a private insurer disability. And in order to claim economic loss, we just need to see that there is a disability, temporary, partial, permanent, but that it is based on an eligible condition. And when we calculate economic loss, there are a variety of factors that we use, but we consider your age at the start of when you couldn't work anymore, what your work life expectancy would have been had the injury not happened. We look at your income, we look at the percentage of disability, We look at the benefits that your employer provided. So these are all individually calculated. And then the third part of the award is what are called collateral offsets. These are benefit payments that you've received specifically because of your eligible condition. So for example, Social Security disability payments or workers' compensation payments, or if you were party to a 9/11 related lawsuit and you received a settlement, then we are required to subtract the amount of your settlement. So again, it is important to know that all awards are calculated individually based on your circumstances. And the overall formula looks like this: non-economic loss plus the economic loss, if it applies to you, minus collateral offsets is your total award. There is no cap on the total award amount. There are caps to some of the inputs to the total, but there is no cap on the total award that an individual may receive. And so I'm going to turn it over to Anthony, who is going to talk about registration and filing a claim.
Thank you, Stephanie. Good evening, everyone. I'm just going to share my screen. So there are 3 basic steps to register and file your VCF claim. And the first one is the most basic, but it's to create an online account and register and complete the registration process. And you could do that online through our website or by calling our helpline. And we're going to talk more about that in detail in just a minute. The second step is to get certified by the WTC Health Program for a 9/11 physical health condition. And the final step is to file your claim by October 1st, 2090. And this is the claim filing deadline. It is the same for everyone. Now let's discuss the differences between registration and filing a claim, because as we saw from the poll, sometimes there's confusion about whether folks have already registered or where they are in the claim filing process. So as I mentioned, registration can be done by phone or by calling our helpline. Registration waives no legal rights. It doesn't obligate you to file a claim. It simply preserves your right to file a claim in the future, and you do not need to be sick to register. We're going to ask you at the time of registration for basic information, contact information, social security number, other ID, date of birth, that kind of information. So just be prepared to be able to answer those questions. Now, registration is not the same as filing a claim, and registration deadlines vary. They're not the same for everyone, and we're really going to get into detail on this because, as we know, there's some confusion in the 9/11 community about this. Now let's talk about filing a claim. You don't need an attorney to file a claim. You're more than welcome to work with an attorney, but you don't need an attorney. And if you're not working with an attorney, you could certainly call our helpline. They could assist you with filing your claim and help you throughout the process. Now, once you're certified by the health program for a physical condition, you're going to complete and submit the claim form and any and all of the required supporting documents. And these include the authorization for the release of medical records. This allows us to get information on your condition from the health program, the signature page, and your proof of presence that Stephanie had talked about in detail. Now, the deadline to file a claim is the same for everyone, and that's October 1st, 2090. So just please keep that in mind. This image that you see here is from our website, our recently added how to file a claim page. So everything in terms of this 3-step process is there. You'll find it on that page in detail. So I encourage you to visit our site, vcf.gov, and click on the how to file a claim page for all of this really helpful information. and I've already mentioned this a few times, but I think we'll say it. It bears repeating that the deadline to file the claim is the same for everyone. And again, that's October 1st, 2090. And that stems from our VCF permanent reauthorization. Now, we've mentioned that there's some confusion in the 9/11 community about the registration deadline, the July 2021 deadline. So I'm going to break that down in detail for you in just a moment. But I first want to kind of give you the bottom line on this. And it all sort of stems from how you answer this question. So are you certified for treatment for a 9/11 related physical health condition? Now, if you answer yes, you have 2 years from the date of the certification to register with us. So if you have more than one certification, it's 2 years from the date of your most recent certified physical health condition. Now, if you answered no, your 2-year clock has not started ticking just yet. But we really strongly encourage you to go ahead and register anyway. There's no harm in registering, and then you simply don't have to worry about it then. Now, the deadline provides an opportunity for claimants who missed prior deadlines to register. So now, if your physical condition was certified before July 29th, 2019, and you did not register with the VCF within that 2-year time period, what this July 2021 deadline is, it gives you an opportunity to be grandfathered in. But again, you would need to then register by the July 29th, 2021 deadline. So now just a little more detail about that. So this deadline stems from it's 2 years from the date of the enactment of the VCF permanent authorization. And again, it gives claimants who miss prior deadlines the opportunity to register. Now, you're only required to register with us by July 2021 if your certifications with the health program for a 9/11 physical health condition was done before July 2019. I know this sounds a little bit repetitive, but it bears repeating because again, there's sort of confusion about this. Now, if you have not yet been certified by the health program for a physical health condition or any condition is certified after July 29, 2019, you may register by this July 2021 deadline, but you're not required to do so. Now, in the future, if the health program certifies you for a physical health condition, you are required to register within 2 years of the latest date on which the program certifies a physical condition as 9/11 related. Now, just like our How to File a Claim page, we have a dedicated registration and claim filing deadlines page on our website. I strongly encourage you to check it out. There's detailed information about the various registration deadlines, including if you're filing a claim on behalf of a deceased individual. You can find some guidance there on what deadlines would be applicable. And again, our website, for those of you who aren't able to view the slides, is vcf.gov. Now, the last topic I'm going to talk about is processing a VCF claim. Now, claims are reviewed in priority order, and it's based on the date that the claim is submitted to us. And the time it takes to process a claim depends on many factors, including whether or not we have all the documentation that we need to evaluate your claim, the type of claim, the losses that are being claimed, and the complexity of the claim as well. Now, you have the ability to appeal within 30 days of determination if your claim is denied, or if you believe your award was erroneously calculated. We have appeal hearings which are informal, they're non-adversarial. They're currently being held via video conference and phone because of the pandemic. Now, you may amend your personal injury claim at any point before the claim filing deadline of October 1st, 2090, you could do so to add a new condition, claim a new loss, or submit additional information that may be helpful to your claim. And again, of note, certification of a new condition does not automatically mean a higher award, so please keep that in mind.
So, couple of things that we want you to come away with. These are what we call our top 5 takeaways. Number 1, register now. Online, by phone, there is really no reason not to. As Anthony said, you don't waive any legal rights. It doesn't commit you to filing a claim. It just preserves your right. And I'll say again, if you answer yes to the question, were you there? Even if you are not sick, go ahead and register. Number 2, get certified by the health program before you file your claim. So as Anthony said, step 1 is register. Step 2 is to get certified. Step 3 is to come back and file your claim. And the deadline to file a claim is the same for everyone, October 1st, 2090. Number 3, start gathering your presence documents now, even if you are not sick. As I said before, if you were there, there is no harm in thinking about what documents you may be able to get. If it turns out that your only way to prove presence is by having someone fill out a witness presence statement, you don't want to have to go looking for that individual if you know where they are today and they're willing to fill out the form. So again, go ahead and look at our website, see what types of documents we suggest, and consider gathering your presence documentation. Number 4, everyone who is eligible qualifies for a non-economic loss award. This is the pain and suffering award. You just need to meet our eligibility requirements and you are eligible for this pain and suffering award. There's no additional proof of loss that is needed. And then number 5, you don't need an attorney to file a claim. It's your decision. Our helpline is here to help if you're not working with an attorney. If you decide to work with an attorney, you should know that by law, they are limited to 10% of your award as their fee. So they cannot take more than 10% of your award as their fee. And here's information, resources that we have. So our website is vcf.gov, so .gov. Be very careful of law firm websites that look very similar to ours, and some of them even have intake forms that you may think means you're registering with the VCF, but it's not the same thing. So just make sure, as shown here in the red box, that you're on the official vcf.gov website. Our website has information in English, Spanish, Polish, and Chinese. And again, our helpline, we can't say enough good things about our helpline because they truly are phenomenal in answering your questions. They'll sit with you and walk you step by step through the claim form. They'll help you set up your account. And the number is 1-855-885-1555. So again, that's 1-855-885-1555. And we also have a number for the hearing impaired, or if you're calling from outside the United States. All of that information is available on our website. And you can also follow us on Twitter, which is the official social media channel for the VCF. So I want to thank our partners at Mount Sinai again, and appreciate you hosting the event. And I think we're going to open it up for questions.
Great. Thank you so much, Stephanie. Thank you, Anthony, for this very informative workshop and providing information to our responders. We did receive quite a few questions. So we're going to get started with those, and then I'll turn it over to Pat Patty and Maria as well, because they were managing the chat. One of the first questions that came in, what is the difference between VCF, the first VCF, VCF1, and the VCF2? I have been hearing a lot about this.
Okay, so the first VCF is the fund that operated from December 2001 to June of 2004. So that was the very first, the first version of the 9/11 Victim Compensation Fund. And it closed in June of 2004, and it had very specific eligibility requirements. So it essentially compensated the individuals, the families of those who had died on that day, or if you were filing an injury claim, you had to meet very specific criteria. You had to be present basically at ground zero within 12 hours of the attacks. You had to have sought treatment for any injury within 24 hours of being injured. And it was very limited in covering respiratory illnesses for first responders. So in order to be eligible for compensation in the first VCF, you really had to be there that day or shortly after, and it was a very limited eligibility requirement. So one of the things that we'll hear a lot, and we get a lot of claims, are people who they were there, but they didn't become sick until much later. And so maybe their illness started to surface during the cleanup effort in 2002, but they didn't meet the criteria for that first VCF. The other thing that we will often see, and I'll be honest with you, this has surprised us. We didn't expect this when we reopened in 2011, but we have a lot of claims from individuals who had a claim in that first VCF. And it was mainly the responders who had some respiratory illnesses. And unfortunately, they now have additional illnesses. And so you can come back in VCF2 and you can seek compensation for those new illnesses or if the illness has gotten worse. So we can't compensate you for the same thing that you might have received an award in VCF1, but if it's gotten worse or if you have a new illness, or maybe now you're disabled from your condition and you weren't back then you can come back into VCF2. And if that applies to you, because as I said, there's more of those than we expected. If that applies to you, your presence at the site is done as long as you received an award in VCF1. So if you received an award in VCF1, and if you are now sick or things have gotten worse, you can come back into VCF2 and your presence is already taken care of. And again, there's information about that on our website.
Great, thank you. The second question that came in, there were a lot of questions that were coming in about the claim submission process and the time frame. I submitted my claim. What happens next? Is there a time frame on how long does this go for? I filed my claim. It's still pending review. How long does it take for the claim to be reviewed?
Yeah, so right now, from submission until award, we are averaging at about 15 months. We know that's a long time. And one of our goals is to get that to under a year. One of the ways you can help us is by making sure that when you submit your claim, that you submit everything that we need in order to review it. Because what happens, and a lot of the reason for the length of time, is because we do a lot of back and forth. We pick up the claim, we don't have what we need, we send you a letter, you send us something back. It's this back and forth process can add a lot of time. So once you submit your claim, we do a preliminary review. We want to make sure that there are certain documents in the claim because honestly, we can't review the claim without them. And examples of that would be the signature page, right? All the legal mumbo jumbo that says, yes, I'm allowing the VCF to review my claim. The other document that we look for in the early stage of review is the document that lets us go to the health program. Because without that document that you've signed, we can't go to the health program to get information about your conditions. So the first step is we do this preliminary review, make sure that we have those basic documents. If we're missing anything, of course, we send you a letter. And then the claim will get picked up for eligibility review. This is where someone will be looking at the presence documents you submit to make sure that they're sufficient. We may reach out to your employer, or perhaps we've already reached out. I'll use an FDNY example. If you were FDNY active firefighter, we've already gotten information from FDNY. But the person reviewing the claim will be looking to be sure that we have everything we need to evaluate your eligibility. And then once you're determined to be eligible, we calculate the award. So the number one thing you can do to help us move your claim faster is submit it and make sure it's complete. Look at the document checklist on our website. It lays out exactly what we need, and respond in a timely manner if we happen to come to you asking for more information.
Thank you, Stephanie.
And Stephanie, Agatha, can I just add to that?
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
you know, just in terms of the claim processing timeline, we actually have this updated on our website on a monthly basis. So just to give you a sense of the claim review timeline currently, claims submitted prior to February 2020 are currently receiving award determinations, and claims submitted prior to February 2020 are currently in substantive review. So again, just please, you know, get in the habit of checking the website, and that claims review timeline is updated on a monthly basis.
Yes.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
There are a lot of questions coming in through a chat box about the death claims. My husband was a responder. He passed away ever since. How do I go about filing claim for deceased members?
So first of all, I'm sorry for your loss, and appreciate your husband's service. So what you'll need to do is first of all, register if you haven't already. So the registration deadline, if you're filing a claim on behalf of a deceased individual, is 2 years from the date of death. And so if you missed that deadline, you have until July 29th of this year to register and be grandfathered in. So if you haven't already registered, just go ahead and do that. We will need to see documents from the court that show that you are the rightful representative of the estate. So for New York, these are commonly letters of administration or a court order that show that you are the individual who is authorized to bring the claim to the VCF on behalf of your husband. And the first thing that we will do is make sure that we confirm or validate that you are the rightful representative. Now, when it comes to presence, and proving presence, the answer there will depend on your husband's situation. So again, if he was employed by one of the entities that we have an information exchange with, then we can get that information from them. Again, I would look on the website because it will give you information on the different types of documents we can take. And if by some chance your husband was not certified by the World Trade Center Health Program for a physical condition before he passed away, then we also have a process you can use to submit information about his condition, and we work with the health program to verify it. So in a nutshell, I would encourage you to call our helpline and look on our website, but the overall process is the same. The types of documents we need are just a little different with the proof that you're the authorized representative, and we do need a death certificate and a few other documents.
Thank you, Stephanie. There are some additional questions about the supporting documentations. There were a few questions about pictures or pictures sufficient proof of presence. My company that I worked for closed down. I'm not able to get any documentation from them. If I get two coworkers to submit affidavits, is that enough? And how do I get the information about as a proof of presence if I don't have anyone to do an affidavit, or again, the company that I work for closed down?
Okay, so let me see if I can remember these.
Yeah.
The first question is about photos.
Yes.
Here's the problem with photos. And they may help. So if you have photos, I encourage you to submit them. The problem for us with photos is that we don't know that it's you in the picture. So we receive a lot of photos of groups, 4 or 5 responders together at the site. It's not a very clear photograph. There's no official caption below it. It's not that we don't believe that that's you, but we don't know that it's you, right? And at the end of the day, I will say we work very, very hard to help prove you are eligible. We are a very unique benefit program in that we want to help you figure out ways to prove you're eligible. But we are also taxpayer funded. And so we have to be careful to have the right documentation and also to avoid fraud. So with that said, if you have a photo, it's a little better if it's a photo perhaps from a newspaper with a caption with names underneath. It can be a little better if you send us a picture also of your driver's license so that we can see what you actually look like. But the photos aren't perfect as a form of presence. They're more likely to be supportive and support other documents that you submit. So they can be helpful, but they're rarely proof on their own. So the coworkers, if you have 2 coworkers from the time who are willing to fill out affidavits, have them fill out the witness presence form instead. It's on our website. It's under forms and resources. It guides them through the information we need, because at the end of the day, we want to make sure we get what we need and we don't have to keep contacting you for more. So if they follow the instructions and they answer the questions, they can submit the witness presence statement. It's the equivalent of an affidavit, but it makes sure that we get what we need. I think the third part of the question was the company closed or is no longer in business. This has been a problem for many people. It's almost 20 years. If your company is no longer in business, that's okay. Think about what else you might have. So do you have some medical records from the time that show the injury? Do you have information that shows sort of a log of where you were? Think about what you might have. And if you truly have nothing, you've looked at our website, you've called our helpline, every suggestion we have, you have nothing, you can let us know that. You can submit with your claim a statement that you have tried these 4 things, you really can't come up with anything, and you can actually ask that we go ahead and deny your claim so that you can come in and have a hearing and talk to us. It's that will extend the processing of your claim, but just think about, do you have, were you in the zone for a reason other than work? Because remember, we just need to know you were in the area. Maybe you had, I'll give you some examples. Maybe you had jury duty and you still have the proof that you had jury duty during that time frame. Maybe you had a reason to go to the court building. Maybe you had a reason to go to one of the government buildings. Workers' comp, exposure 49, we use those forms. The WTC 12s. If you participated in wave 1 of the World Trade Center Health Registry, that can be helpful. So, think about it, look at what's on our website. It doesn't have to be from your employer. It just needs to be something that shows us you were there. Did I answer all the parts of that question?
Yes, you did. And there are a few other questions that are coming along the same topic. As far as the present statement form, does that form need to be notarized?
So the good news is no, because there is language on it that essentially says, I am signing this under penalty of perjury. So they are basically attesting to it being an honest and true statement. It does not need to be notarized.
Okay. Are badges, like ID badges and work badges, are those sufficient for proof of presence?
So again, badges can help, but they're not, it depends, right? So they may be able to support presence, but a badge tells us, let's say the badge tells us that you worked for Verizon. It doesn't tell us that you were working for Verizon in the New York City exposure zone. It just tells us that you were working for Verizon. So the badges can be a help, especially if it is one, obviously, of the special badges that were issued at that time. But we are likely to need additional information in support of presence.
Great, thank you. Will witnesses be required to testify regarding their statements about my presence?
No, not necessarily. So if they complete the statement, the witness presence statement, and they answer all the questions and they sign it and whatnot, there might be a case where we may call the witness when we're reviewing the claim just to ask a clarifying question or two, but there's no reason for them to be a witness at that stage. Now, if your claim is denied and you come to a hearing, you are welcome to bring any witnesses that you want who can provide additional information at the hearing. That would be up to you. But if they submit a witness presence statement, it does not mean that they're going to have to be a witness later. We may call them just to clarify information, but assuming we have what we need, that would be it. And we would never say that they need to come to a hearing. If your claim is denied, it's up to you who you bring to a hearing. It's not up to us.
Okay. There are some additional questions about additional conditions. So one of them was initially back injury was not included in the World Trade Center eligibility. It was sustained moving stretchers and injured individuals on 9/11 as a first responder. Has that changed? So there are a lot of questions about adding additional conditions to the VCF. If I filed a claim, received the award, and I am diagnosed with additional World Trade Center related conditions, what are my steps?
So I mentioned the VCF is a unique program for many reasons. One of the other ways it's unique is you can come back and amend your claim at any time from the point you submit it to 10 years after you've received your award. Anytime before October 1st, 2090, you can amend your claim to add a new certified condition or to claim a new loss. Or maybe your claim was denied and you decided not to appeal. And then a few years later, you come across documents that you think can support presence. You can amend and submit those documents, and we'll pick up your claim and we'll review it again, and we'll get in touch with you and let you know the outcome of the review. So new certified condition, or maybe your condition has become disabling and you now want to claim economic loss, you can amend your claim at any time. We'll pick it up, we'll review it, we'll let you know the outcome.
Okay. There are several questions if responders need to be certified for treatment by the World Trade Center Health Program before they register with the VCF.
Not to register. So you don't need anything to register other than call or go online and give us, your name, address, your phone number, your date of birth, your social security number or other ID. That's basically all we need. You need to be certified before you file your claim.
Right.
Register first, get certified by the health program, file your claim. 3 steps.
Okay. What about the mental health certifications? Will they ever be eligible for economic or non-economic losses?
My answer, unfortunately, that's up to Congress. It's in our statute, our law, that we can only compensate for physical conditions. That is something that is determined by Congress.
Okay. Does the VCF and the New York State workers' compensation claims affect each other?
No, well, it depends. So first of all, if you have a workers' comp claim, we can access their system and may be able to use that to prove your presence. The way that it might impact your award is if you are disabled as a result of an eligible condition. And so we are awarding economic loss, so lost wages and lost benefits, and you are receiving workers' comp disability payments, we are required to subtract those payments from the award. But if you're only claiming non-economic loss, you're not claiming lost earnings or any of that, then the workers' comp claim may be able to help you because we may be able to prove presence, but it wouldn't impact the calculation of your award because we would not offset it, we wouldn't subtract it unless we're awarding lost wages.
Okay. There are additional questions in reference to the certifications. If I'm certified for a World Trade Center related condition, does this mean that I am automatically eligible for economic loss?
No. So what you need, and so if you meet all of our eligibility criteria, you would be eligible for non-economic loss. To be eligible for economic loss, you have to have a disability based in whole or in part, either partial or temporary, because of your eligible condition.
There are questions that are coming in through the Q&A chat about the lawyer. Do I need a lawyer to file a claim? How much is my lawyer charging for this? And questions about filing a claim with a lawyer. What are the benefits to file a claim with the lawyer versus without?
Stephanie, I could take this one if you'd like.
Go
I know
for it.
this topic comes up all the time, and the answer is no. You know, it's certainly your decision. If you want to work with an attorney, you certainly have the ability to do so, but you don't need a lawyer to file a claim on your behalf. And if you're not working with an attorney, our helpline is a tremendous resource. They can help you file your claim, and they can help you throughout the whole process. Now, in terms of our statute, attorneys are not allowed to take more than 10% of your award as their fee. So the statute caps that fee at 10% of the award.
And to answer the part of the question about the benefits of working with an attorney, I won't call them benefits per se. What I will say is there's no difference in how the claim is handled. So we don't care if you're working with an attorney or not, the claim is going to be handled the same way. Some people decide to work with an attorney because for some individuals, it can be a lot to figure out what documents we need, and maybe they're not comfortable, calling our helpline for whatever reason. So it's a personal decision, but it doesn't move the claim faster. There's no difference in the order it's picked up, and there's no difference in how we evaluate it.
Oh, thank you. There are additional questions coming in again about the claim process. If I was initially denied, can I resubmit it? If I was diagnosed with another condition that was not initially included in my first claim, can I resubmit the claim?
So I'm not going to call it resubmit because you only have one claim, but what you can do is reopen it. So you can amend your claim anytime. You can tell us about the new information that you have, and you can upload it to your claim. And then we will pick it up and we will take a look at it, and we'll let you know whether we need additional information or whether this satisfies what we need. But we will re-review it, and then we'll notify you of the decision coming out of that review. So again, the denials, they're not permanent. If you have a new condition and you didn't have a condition before, and now you have a certified physical condition, or you didn't have presence documents and you didn't appeal at the time, you can amend your claim. You have new information in support of your claim. Let us know about it, and we'll pick it up and we'll let you know the outcome of our review.
All right. How do I know if I am registered at the VCF, and how do I know if I met all my registration deadline? Do I still need to register at the VCF if I'm not sick now?
Anthony?
Oh, I could take those. Okay, so first part of that, how do you know if you're registered? The easiest thing to do is just to call our helpline. They could tell you right away if you are. Our helpline opens tomorrow, 8:30 a.m. Eastern time. We can of course give you the number again if you need it, but would encourage you to call. And then the second part of the question was, can you repeat the second part? I'm sorry. It was about registration.
Yes. How do I know if I'm registered at the VCF and I met all of my registration deadlines? And if I'm sick, if I'm not sick, I'm sorry, should I still register at the VCF?
Yes. So the second part of that, if you're not sick, should you still register? And the answer is absolutely yes. Register now. Again, you don't need to be certified. You need the certification from the health program to file your claim, not to register. You don't need to be sick to register. So please go ahead and register, and then you don't have to worry about it.
Okay. I'll just turn it over to Maria and Patricia right now, because I know they're managing the other chats. Patty and Maria, are there any questions that came through your Q&A chat?
Una pregunta, sorry, I was saying it in Spanish. So one of the questions was, is immigration status affected when you apply for VCF?
No, 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 and no. We don't share information with any other government entities, and we do not have any questions or ask any questions about citizenship, about immigration status, or any of that.
Okay.
I think the last question that came in, it might have been stated already, but it just came up, was how many witness statements do you need?
So if you are using those as your only proof of presence, you have nothing else, you need 2. If you have another form of presence, proof of presence, and you're using that as a second, then you just need the 1. But if you're using just witness presence statements, we need 2 of them.
Patty,
Maria,
do you have any questions on your end? I don't have any more.
Yes, we do have a questions. Are there any benefits with applying through a lawyer versus through ourselves?
So no, I mean, the benefit would be if you want assistance gathering the documents and filling out the claim form, and you really don't want to do it yourself, then a lawyer can certainly help you. Our helpline, again, is always here to help. And there's no difference at all in how we evaluate the claim or process the claim or what we look for in terms of what's in the claim. There's no difference. We don't treat them any differently if you file it yourself or if you decide to work with an attorney. So the benefit would be a personal benefit to you, depending on how comfortable you are in reading through the information and filling out the form and calling our helpline for assistance if you need it.
Right. We have a few more questions that I was trying to compile it together. How do I appeal the decision on my claim? What's the first step?
So you can only appeal the decision if the letter that we send you includes an appeal form. So if your eligibility is denied, it will include instructions for how to appeal. It will lay out exactly what you need to do, and the appeal form will be included in the letter. When you get your award letter, It will include, again, an appeal information with an appeal form and instructions on what to do if you think that we didn't calculate the award properly. So the way to appeal is you'll be notified in your letter that you are able to appeal, and the instructions and the form will be included in your letter.
Okay. There was one more question that I was, I probably lost it. Can you receive more than one award? What happens if you receive disability during that time?
So I hope this answers the question. So let's say that you filed your claim, you were not disabled at the time, and so we awarded non-economic loss only, the pain and suffering part of the award, and we pay you. And then a couple years later, you are determined to be disabled as a result of your certified condition. You can come back and amend your claim, and this time tell us that you're claiming lost wages and lost employment benefits associated with your disability. And you'll need to submit information about your disability and additional information that helps us calculate the award. But you can absolutely come back, amend your claim, and we will move it forward through the review process and let you know the outcome of our review.
Thank you. We have 5 minutes left, and I know Maria, she had some questions in her chat box about the lawsuits. Maria, can you go ahead?
Hi, yes. So one of the questions that came in Spanish was, I received some money from a lawsuit of the towers. Can I still register for VCF?
Yes. So you can register and you can file a claim. What we will look for are documents that show when you settled and the settlement amount, or if there are individuals in attendance tonight who maybe you had a lawsuit but you withdrew it or you dismissed it. We have rules about that as well, but you can come into the VCF, file your claim, and what we will end up doing is subtracting the amount of your settlement from the award. So we'll calculate your award, and then we're required by law to subtract the amount of your settlement. I'm assuming it was one of the lawsuits, the 9/11 related lawsuits. Now, this does not apply if it's a lawsuit that's part of against the terrorists. So we're talking about the lawsuits that we know were settled. A large number of people participated in them. We just need information about the settlement, and then we factor that in when we calculate your award.
There is one more question. What is the difference between the VCF and the Zadroga law?
So we are the same. So the Zadroga law established the VCF and the health program. We call ourselves sister programs. So the Zadroga Act is the law that reopened the VCF and created the health program.
Okay. There is one more question, and we'll be wrapping up. It's about the pain and suffering. Can you elaborate on this a little bit?
Sure. So this is the part of the award that, as long as you meet the eligibility requirements, you're eligible for a pain and suffering award. These awards range from $10,000 to $340,000. And the law sets a cap. So if you have a non-cancer condition, then the amount is capped at $90,000. And if you have a cancer condition, then the award, this part of the award, is capped at $250,000. And then there is some ability to, if you've got multiple severe conditions. So when we are determining the amount of your non-economic loss, and again, this is just one part of the award, if we are determining it, what we are looking for is the severity of your certified condition and the impact on the quality of your life. It's not about the number of conditions. So let's say, for example, that you have asthma. And maybe your asthma requires oxygen multiple times a week. You can't climb stairs. You go to the emergency room at least once a month, and maybe you need an inhaler on a daily basis. That is a severe asthma. And so the award is going to be a little higher to reflect the severity. Let's say, on the other hand, you're certified for asthma and sinusitis and rhinitis, and they are completely well controlled with medication. You've had no issues that require hospitalization. You are still able to work and do things around the house and be with your family. Even though you have 3 conditions, the award is going to be on the lower end. So it's really about the impact of your conditions on your activities of daily living. And so we're looking to see how severe it is. And that's what the Pain and Suffering Award compensates. So it's not about the number of conditions, it's about the impact overall on your life.
Thank you. And the last question, Stephanie and Anthony, if you can just repeat the VCF, what's the best way to get in touch with the VCF to our participants, both online and over the phone?
Sure. So our website is www.vcf.gov. They could also follow us now on Twitter, and our Twitter handle is at SEPT11 VCF. And then the helpline number is 1-855-885-1555.
Thank you, Anthony.
Sure.
There were additional questions that came in through a Q&A chat. We do encourage you to call the helpline, as Anthony mentioned. Go on a website, call the helpline, and I'm sure they will be able to answer the additional questions that we didn't have a chance to get to. I want to thank you, Anthony and Stephanie, for providing such a great overview and resources to our patients. I want to thank Maria and Patricia, Dr. Crane, for joining me today, and of course, our responders for joining this webinar. Please stay tuned. We're planning on doing more educational webinars because we see that they're very, very helpful. So on behalf of the Mount Sinai team, thank you so much to our panelists and our responders today. Thank you.